10 years ago, on February 9th, 2015, the 13th episode of Star Wars Rebels Season 1 aired on DisneyXD. That episode was called Call to Action. So let's recap the episode. The episode opens up with the Ghost crew basically running away from an Imperial patrol. They successfully deal with them and skedaddle back to the Ghost, where they see a transmission from the Senator from last week saying that he's recommitted himself to the Empire and that he hopes that his followers will do the same. The thing is, like I said last week, his followers, or at least some of the people he inspired, are still going to be inspired to fight the Empire despite his recommitting himself to the Empire publicly. That's still going to happen. And of course, the Ghost Crew is a little depressed. So Kanan gets the idea of maybe they should make their own transmission to inspire hope in the people. And so they start planning. Meanwhile, guess which Imperial official shows up on Lothal? That's right, Grand Moff Tarkin. Thank you, Jeff. I don't know if Jeff guessed it. I don't even know if I have a Jeff watching. I just chose Jeff as a random name. But Sam, next time don't say Vader. That's a later episode. Again, random name. I don't know. I'm just doing what some YouTubers do. Anyhow, Tarkin comes in. He basically takes control of Lothal, of the Imperial operation on Lothal. He interrogates Taskmaster Grunt and the other officer with him, whose name I forgot. And he has the Grand Inquisitor, not executed, though he does execute them by beheading. And Minister Tiya is shocked. Even Chaos is shocked. And yeah. So he's not taking a no-nonsense approach. He's going to punish failure. But the thing is, that's going to create an atmosphere of fear within the Imperial ranks, which is likely not going to lead them to doing their jobs well. So, good for the Rebels, bad for the Empire. So, the Rebels, going back to the Ghost Crew, they're scouting out a Imperial communication tower because they're going to hijack it to send a message that way it's not traced back to them as clearly. No, just traced to Lothal. And, well, a probe droid there, because Tarkin has all the probe droids everywhere to try to find the Rebels. And Ezra uses the Force to get a Lost Cat to jump on the probe droid to disable it so they can get to the speeders and get out of there. Well, of course, they should have probably made sure the probe droid was fully disabled because it does transmit an image back to the Imperials, and Tarkin decides to lay a trap. They're not going to increase security at the communications tower, but they're going to be ready to respond when the Rebels actually take action. Right now, the Rebels get there, all is going to plan, and then the Empire shows up. Shocker. So they do a quick change. They're going to pick up at the top of the tower instead of at the bottom, and Kanan stays behind to delay the Empire. He does a show duel with the Grand Inquisitor, and, well, he does commit perfidy, which is a false surrender. Why do they do that? But again, when you're dealing with the Empire as Rebels, sometimes you may just have to do things like that to get an edge. And it's not like, he was right away. Like, potentially, if that was the best way to delay, he might have kept on doing it. Who knows? Hard to say, but it does happen, and we should acknowledge it. They do that way too often in Star Wars. They need to work better on that. False surrenders is not really a good idea, because there's a lot of problems with that. But anyhow, Kanan is captured, and the Empire does destroy the tower to stop Ezra's speech, because Ezra's the one they chose to do the speaking. But he does pretty much finish his speech, and it's really a call to action to people to stand up to the Empire, to have a hope, to say that they, the Rebels, are not criminals, but rebels fighting for the people to end the tyranny of the Empire. He calls on his own life experience, where how his family taught him stuff, and then his new family has reminded him of basically, being kind to others, standing against authoritarianism and tyranny. A call to action. And the Empire can't let that, so they have to destroy the tower. But Ezra does complete his message. Now, in this episode, we don't know does that message get out, but spoilers, we do know from the following episodes that people do hear the message. We know that. In fact, this is way spoiler for, I think, season 4, but we find out that Ezra's parents were still alive, just being held in an Imperial prison camp, probably forced labor camp, and it turns out that they heard the message as well. Their son continuing their legacy, because his parents once transmitted messages against the Empire as well. In face of authoritarianism, in the face of tyranny, You need to speak up where and when you can, and despite the consequences. Freedom of speech is a fundamental right. There's a reason why the First Amendment to the U.S. Constitution is, well, it's a couple of things, but it includes freedom of speech, freedom of expression. To let people take that right away is dangerous. If you read On Tyranny by Timothy Snyder, highly recommend it. But there's several chapters, but including do not obey in advance. That is chapter 1 for facing against tyranny. Do not obey in advance. And that includes do not remain silent in advance of tyranny. You gotta speak up as it's rising, because that increases the chance of tyranny being defeated before it can take hold. We need to speak up. We have to speak up. And it's frustrating that I have to wait a whole 2 weeks now instead of 1 week to talk about the next episode, since I'm doing these basically 10 years to the date, almost. So, do I push ahead? No, I'm going to do something else for next Monday, but we'll see that when it comes out. I'm not going to spoil my plans for you yet. But anyhow, I do want to hear your thoughts, because this episode is really all about a call to action. It's call to action in your voice. But it's also to remind us that when we see tyranny, we cannot be silent. When we see oppression, we cannot be silent. And that's where I'm going to end this. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you took something away from it. I would love to hear your thoughts on all of this in the comment section down below. Thank you for watching my video. I do hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please be sure to give this video a like and share. Also, consider subscribing to my channel to stay up to date on all my latest videos. In the meantime, thank you for watching, and as always, have a good day, a good night, wherever you are. May the force be with you, always.